I wanted to take the conversation back just for a moment to artificial intelligence and AI and the theme. And, we've had questions from clients asking, is this just a technology industry, phenomenon? How is it going to affect traditional industries? Maybe if you don't mind taking a moment just to explain your thoughts on how this is going to revolutionize IT infrastructures for businesses that aren't technology companies.
Okay, so two-step process here, right? So let's look at the build out, right? We all got together. Grant, Steve, and we got together when we were back in university. We scraped some money together and we bought a house and we're going to get into renovations, right? And we walk into the house and we realize that we have to rewire the house. And all of a sudden, our budget to fix the house up gets blown apart because we got to rewire the house. Okay. What we're going through right now is we're rewiring the global economy. Okay. That's what we're doing. That's how big it is. Okay. So we've got all this data and we are going to create and turn that data into value. This is as profound as taking water, applying heat to it, and turning it into an electron. This is as profound as taking an atom and turning it into electron or electricity. And then you electrify, and then things happen. Think about having a city that didn't have electricity. Think about your house didn't have electricity, right? Think about what appliances. Just think about everything that needs to get fixed. That's where we are. So now let's apply this to real world. If you have a company that basically has a ton of data and they can learn and computers can learn from that data and make decisions real time from that data, they don't need humans anymore. Okay, there are factories in China that have no humans. So we're talking a couple of robots. We're talking none, right? You don't have to worry about labor contracts. You don't have to worry about work from home, right? You don't have to have a big HR department. That's where we're going. And so you say, how does it filter through? Well, I would suggest to you the large technology companies recognize the fact that the companies that do not understand that simple point are going to no longer exist. Singer Sewing Machine, folks, was a really big company in the 1970s. Okay? So how this goes is this first phase is we finally get the chips, right? NVIDIA, they're launching up that was called Blackwell, right? It's going to be the biggest chip launch ever. Sometimes we talk about 1995. That's where we are. Part of me, can I share with you a quick story?
Yes, please.
So I get moved down. So I worked for Warren Buffett, and we took out about 8 banks. And I would get moved around and the banks that we would take out, I would get the mutual fund company and the investment management side, and we would merge. So I went through 7 or 8 mergers, which is like you got to man, that's hand-to-hand combat every 2 or 3 years. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So there was a bank called Allfirst, and it was in Baltimore. And Allfirst was owned by the largest bank in Ireland, and they had a currency trader that blew up the bank. So I get a call from my vice chair one day, Mark, and he says, you're moving to Baltimore, you're moving to DC. And so I said, and so the reason why I say that is, I don't know if any of you folks have ever been to DC. Fine, right? It's great. You go to Baltimore, Baltimore's a dump, right? And so this is the way I think. I'm ADD. This is why I'm a little bit odd, but that's why I survived, right? So you walk into downtown Baltimore, and it is what we call in our business a big buy-side town. It is a massive buy-side town. So you walk into a town that is dumb. It's just, and yet there is this big financial market presence. Okay. Guy that grew up in Scarborough asks the question, why? Right? And you get the answer why is because in 1985, Wall Street was not willing to basically take Intel, Microsoft, Cisco Systems, all of these technology companies public. And the only town that was willing to take it public, well, there's two. There was San Francisco and there was Baltimore. And there was a big shop in Baltimore called Alex Brown that took Intel, Cisco. So when I'm talking to these guys, entrepreneurs, I'm talking to people that bought Intel in 85 at $3, right? And the reason why I say that to you is it's that big. It may not be, we may be buying 1985, not the 1990s. And so it's that big of a theme. Is it going to become a bubble? Yes, it will. Right? It always will. It will be like a canal or a railroad. But we're in the early phases. And then so you get the build out. And then what will happen will be, look, think about this. Large language models. Oh, yeah, even the head of NVIDIA says this, right? You don't want to be a coder anymore. Anybody that's watching that has kids that want to go to Waterloo to become a computer programmer, don't, right? Because this thing does it for you right now.
Exactly.
This thing, this Apple phone is going to have what? It's going to get upgraded to be AI compliant, right? My Dell computer right here that I'm doing this is going to be, we're going to have a massive upgrade cycle. All the servers have to be replaced. Everything's got, that's why you want to buy copper and you want to buy uranium. It's this big. So, but for companies, look I'm a one-man band, right? If you compare me to another shop, I should have 20 people.
Yes.
Right? You guys are going to be able to manage like billions of dollars with less people. Eventually, what's going to happen is somebody's going to say in industry X, the Chinese are doing this with no people. What do I got to do? I got to get a bunch of servers. I got the data. I teach it. I get some robots and it's done. So what does this talk about? I hear too, and this is the same narrative in 2000. This is where it gets to, you sit there and go, I got to make this right one time. Like we're taking grade 9 geography for the 9th time. Can we finally get this right? Right? What happened in 2000 that they didn't call? Well, people got laid off. Right? The younger generation does not know what's going to hit them.
Yeah.
Right? So this is about this. So this is where you get deflationary pressures. Technology is deflationary. Right? The AI is going to basically put a ton of people out of work. And those individuals that understand that and can position themselves for it are going to be fine. But what we've got right now, we have brand new industries that are being made. That's why you get a bubble. Right? When the railroads were built, that was brand new. You get a bubble. We don't know because we don't know how to value it. We allocate too much capital to it. The bubble pops, and then the railroads. Then the United States has all these railroads, and the economy adjusts. Same thing with the canal, right? You have to have upfront spending to build. Think about when next time you go to Niagara Falls, you had to build the power plant there, right? That power grid that we live up on had to be built. We take that for granted.
Yeah.
Right. That's how big this is. And so for those who think this time it's not different, what will happen is somebody will come in and they will innovate an industry and they will innovate it because they will do it with less people. Their margins will be higher. They will be able to produce, their productivity will be going through the roof. Right. That's where we're going. We're that early. Now, I don't know if it's the 90s or the 80s. But in this process, there's going to be bubbles. There's going to be fits and starts. This is, trees don't grow to the sky, right? I think there's going to be a period, and we need to be comfortable with the fact, like Steve, I don't know if you remember the 90s, but hey, Paul Krugman would come out and say the fax machine was more profound than the internet.
Yes.
And we're going to have to go through one of those. Right? And that's okay. So we're renters here. I can paint you as an economist, a long-term structural thesis that's going to happen. But now we have to overlay the philosophy and the psychology of that Wall Street gets too bullish and too bullish. Bearish. I am more of a psychologist than I am an economist because I'm trying to figure out where we are. So where do we go? Nobody believed this. Okay. I tell you, so I learned this back doing econometrics, neural networks, all this stuff 3 years ago in the middle of COVID. I'm driving to Montreal to visit my mother-in-law. God bless her soul. COVID took her out. But I'm sitting there listening to CBC radio, and they bring in two experts. As it happens, I haven't listened to As It Happens forever, right? I happen to flicking, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I listen to As It Happens. And they had these two experts on, and they started talking about ChatGPT, right? And I went, oh, shoot, right? That's it. Because, guys, the hardest part about macro isn't about identifying the theme. It's about identifying the timing of the theme. And when that happened, it was NVIDIA, it was GPU, this is going to get big, and everybody poo-pooed it, right? Everybody poo-pooed it. So what do we have now? We've now have the most powerful chip that's going to be launched. Elon Musk has contacted Dell to basically build the state-of-the-art new server. So we got the new widget, right? The new supercomputer based on GPU. He's going to take all that data. He's going to teach all these computers, and he's going to use all that data to create value. He's going to do the same for Twitter or X, and everybody else like Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg and the guys at Microsoft are going, holy smokes, he's doing this. I've got all this cash. I got to do the same thing. So we're going to be in this phase where we're building everything out. That's why you want to look at companies like Eaton, power grids. Everything's got to be rewired. You're rewiring your house. You guys figure out the companies, okay? Then you get that building phase, and that will be the next phase, right? And then what we'll do is that once that all gets done, then it will be which companies take that data, apply, learn the computers, turn that into value or intelligence to disintermediate other companies and take market share. And so it's in phases. And I think, this goes until the early 2030s. But mark my words, there are going to be, this theme will be like Icarus and fly too close to the sun. And we're going to want to sell some down. So let me give you an example. NVIDIA goes to 200, which is 2000, right? All of a sudden they stop coming out with these super, super big quarters that blow the street's estimates, right? But they're still doing great. They come in and they only meet estimates, and doesn't beat the whisper number, right? NVIDIA is going to go from 200 down to 150. And you're going to get all the pundits are going to go on to TV, right? And folks, if you're watching TV, that's the dumb money. Everybody knows it. There's an old saying in poker, if you don't know who the sucker is, it's you. Right? NVIDIA is going to go back from 200 to 150 or 140. Pick a number. It's going to go, Everybody's going to say it's over, but it's not. And it's rinse and repeat. We go, and I think this is going to be, and I use the 90s and the 80s, but guys, here's where it gets difficult to time it. I pick 2030 because of demographics, because that's when the millennials basically peak as an influence onto the global economy. No different than Grant and Steve, boom bust echo in the 1990s, just follow the boomers. When did the boomers stop having significant influence in the economy? 2000. When did the silent generation cease to have significant force in the economy? The 1970s. You have a massive decade of going down, right? Everything, the innovation continues. So that's why I'm saying that it's like that. And if that's the case, then we've got 4 or 5 years of really good secular bull market. And it would be a shame for clients not to take advantage of that, but to recognize the fact of the ebbs and flows that are going to happen because of the emotion that exists in the economy and in the market. So like I would say to you guys, I think what's going to happen is, you can see it right now. You can see the Bay Street and Wall Street strategists that have missed this trade now for 2 years are coming on and they're taking their numbers up. Okay.
Right.
They have been forced to do that. Look at one of our competitors. They keep coming on saying, model this, model that. Your models are wrong. Your models missed it. Okay. Now you're basically saying you're bullish on the market because you need to keep your job.
Right.
Okay. So where are we in this psychological evolutionary process? We're going to walk into next year and everybody's going to be hyper bullish. And I think the market gets to, like, by this time next year, 6,500. That's my number, but it might be higher. And I think the conversation there then, folks, is when it gets above that, I think we should be getting really defensive and selling into the rallies and buying bonds and getting defensive walking into 26. Right? And the question that we have to ask ourselves now, and the discussions that we have to have are right now, is if we have a declining rate environment going into 26 with a growth shock where NVIDIA and AI is no longer putting up monster numbers for a short period of time, what does the portfolio look like? I leave that to you guys, right? But that's the question, and those are the discussions we have now when it's 24, right?
Right.
We're worried
That's
about
right.
26 and we're talking about that in 24. So till the end of the year, 5,800 to 6,000. I think the thing that and we've talked about this a little bit, what gets me is the question I put is there a catch-up trade in Canada? Because, guys, I have never seen Canada underperform the United States. And I've been in this game a long time, like we have over the last 2 years. Do we get a catch-up trade? If Tip Macklin cuts rates aggressively, as we think he is, how quickly does the real estate market bounce back? Right? Does that mean that banks are a buy? Or is it, and things are fine to the end of the decade? Or do we use that rally in Canada as an opportunity to lighten up?
Yes.
Right? I think those
Yeah.
are questions that are on the table. I think as more data comes out, we'll have clarity on those questions. But I think those are when you're building portfolios, you ask these questions 14 months in advance so that by the time you get to the point where you've made a decision, you've thought about every eventuality.
Yeah.
Right? You've kicked everything. You've thought about it. Is it, so right now, and I'll say it, and this is subject to change because it's flexible. I honestly think that Canada has a tough road to hoe to the end of the decade. I really think we need to go some tough, hard structural adjustments, and we need to realize how lucky we were to come out of the financial crisis the way we were, because given the banks and our ability to sort of coattail off of the bubble, which is China urbanization. That's done. Yeah, we got uranium. Yes. Yeah, we got a little bit of copper. Yeah, that's good. Like, I'm not saying, yeah, we got energy. I like energy. Like, I think oil trades between 70 to 90. Yes, Canadian energy companies are very well managed, right? But, I don't see them as a growth sector, right? And so how do we evolve as an economy to basically come in to this new environment that I just told you right now? Are we building any of these state-of-the-art server farms right now in Canada?
No.
You know what I mean? Right?
Absolutely not.
And so if we're not doing that, then how can Canadian companies take their data, right? And create intelligence out of it to increase productivity? Well, there's one way to do it, right? You know what you do? You phone up NVIDIA
Yes.
and you say, hey, NVIDIA, I need help. But there's no Canadian company. Think about this. We have no real true AI company. We are in the picks and shovel stages, right? I think Tesla is the first company. So what happens? So with AI, what happened with AI, folks, is this: Tesla now can do autonomous driving through visual, through cameras. Before they couldn't. Before they took the data in and they ran it into a computer program with all these if-then statements. What's happening now is with their autonomous driving, you put cameras on the front of a Tesla and it drives. It is accurate, and what it's doing is it basically has been able to take what's happening real time, like you and I would do if we're driving the car, and make the correct decisions, as opposed to, and so if they see the moose in front of us and it has time, it will react. Where before it didn't have enough time. What happens on August the 8th this year, when it's Robo-Taxi Day, right? That's where they're going to come out with robo-taxis. And Elon Musk comes out and basically says, yeah, I hired a bunch of executives from Uber and we're going to roll out Uber taxi, we're going to autonomous taxis all around the world. Yeah, that's what we're going to do, right? What's the total addressable market on that? You want a use case? I don't know.
Wow.
Boom.
Yep.
Right? And then what does
Wow.
Uber do? What does Uber do? Boom. Right? And what about autonomous truck driving? Right? What you can't jump to see they're going to take those Tesla trucks and do the same thing. Oh, we don't need truck drivers anymore. Think about that. Right?
Amazing.
Yep.
And so if you open your, and so this is like, and I mean it, I got this from, I've learned everything from being able to talk to really smart people. If we went back, if you knew what you knew now, in 2003 when Google launched, or Amazon came through the crisis and it was trading at $10, would you have the fortitude to put $10,000 in both stock companies and not touch them? Because if you did, you'd be worth 25 million US.
Yeah.
The average investor would not do that.
No.
But you now
That's
know
right.
in hindsight, what we're looking at, and the data says, folks, that since 1990, all of the performance in the stock market can be attributed to 2.39% of the stocks.
Incredible.
So when you think about Warren Buffett and you look at Berkshire's portfolio, whether it's Coca-Cola for a time or it's Apple, you pick the company, their top 10 names, that's where everything is. So let's do this in the S&P 500. And let's round that up to 3%. That's 15 stocks, folks. And so when you think about this going forward, why do I say the NASDAQ 100? Because if you bought the NASDAQ 100, you would have like 10% in Microsoft, 10% in NVIDIA, Apple. You would have big chunks by definition, and you wouldn't have to worry about the position size.
Right.
Right? Instead of looking at that portfolio going, Steve, I don't know, we got 12% in Microsoft. Is that enough? Isn't that too much? And why I say that to you, you need to be you got to be Warren Buffett to have 50% of your portfolio in Apple. And if you buy these indexes, so let's go back down, pivot it down to the S&P 500. NVIDIA is 6.5%, 7% of the S&P 500. To be long that substantially, to be long it, think about that. And what are you going to do? I mean, now I'm going to put my old CIO hat on. I'm going to go up to Steve. Okay, hey Steve, you're at your benchmark. Your benchmark is the S&P 500, and you're a 40 Act manager. So you're a actively mutual fund manager in the United States, and you have what's called tracking error risk, where you have to stay inside your Morningstar style box.
That's
right.
Exactly.
It's not like Canada, folks, which everybody in the world says is the wild, wild west, right? If you don't stay in that Morningstar style backs of large cap growth or whatever your benchmark is, the compliance part come into your office and get you. You got to have 6.5%. If you are what's called a core manager,
Yeah.
you need to be market weight 6.5%. Why am I saying this to you? You're in a period of time where active managers underperform because of the construct of the passive indexes.
Right.
Let me give you one other thing and then I'll be quiet. The thing about millennials and where our market is going is we are shifting from a market dominated by actively managed mutual funds, which was the product du jour of the baby boomers, to ETFs, which is the product du jour of the millennials. Why is this important? Let me give you another real-time story. One day the SEC came. Here's the trick, and it happens up here in Canada. It's going to change. Every bank had a mutual fund company in the United States because what we would do is we would have an asset allocation program and we would put in all of our mutual funds into the asset allocation program. I would suggest you go look at a Canadian bank and look at their asset allocation program and ask yourself the question, how much of their proprietary products are there?
Yeah.
That does not fly in the United States. That is not going to fly up here eventually. Eventually, regulation's going to change up here. Okay? When that happened in the United States, every actively managed platform went to ETFs. Okay? Because you could not make any money having an actively managed fund, mutual fund company. So every bank got rid of their mutual fund company. That is coming to Canada, folks. Right? This isn't cold fusion. You know, so think about that. If I work for a large organization and I have a 401k, which is an RRSP, and I walk in there and I get a matching by my firm to retire, right? So I put in X, they match my X, and then I go on to the platform and I get to choose different strategies. Oh, I'm 38. I am going to, I target date funds. I picked this sleeve. What does it have? The NASDAQ 100. By definition, the passive money goes into the NASDAQ 100 because of the majority of people that are saving for retirement do a simplistic, rightly or wrongly, retirement program. Think about it, guys. When you watch a commercial, when you're watching soccer or the Leafs or the Blue Jays, and some dude from the bank is sitting there at a desk and he pulls out a thing saying asset allocation's really easy. That's what they're doing to you.
Yeah.
Right? Right? Well, think about how much money there is in the United States that's happening. Right? And they're all buying, if they're all investing, right? So what's happening? All the flows are going into ETFs. Why? Because who's saving for retirement? The millennials. How do they invest? Target date funds. What's the basis of the target date funds? ETFs. You guys can do whatever you want, right? Where's all the flows coming out of, right? Active managers. Why? All the baby boomers. What are they selling? What do they own? Actively managed mutual funds. Right? This is just, if you think of it this way, the last thing I would say, and once you understand that, and we get to say these things, folks, because we're independent. Okay? Right? Again, nothing, we don't have if we do have a proprietary product, but within that proprietary asset allocation product, there is no, Wellington mid-cap growth fund.
Right.
Right? There is no, Wellington large cap Canadian fund that's an actively managed fund that's charging you 2%. You guys want to talk about fees? I would check your portfolio from our competitors and ask yourself, are you really only getting charged that what you think you are? And I would suggest you honestly, you're not. right? So
That's right.
to me, that's what, here's the problem, folks, about that with a mutual fund. This is going to be different, right? So so we got $1 million. In the old days, I would give the $1 million, and I'm going to think Steve and Grant are active managers, old school active managers, right? Which they are right now, but I'm going to just say, so the old school is I give them $1 million and they get to make a determination. I want to buy this. That's overbought. I'm not going to touch this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Today, typically what happens is I give Steve and Grant $1 million and they buy the TSX or they buy the NASDAQ 100 and you buy everything at the same time. And what that does is when you buy everything at the same time, and folks, we are all penguins on the side of an iceberg. And when we jump into the water, just look at what's happening now. Everybody's bullish. Where were they last year?
Yeah.
Right? But because it's an ETF market, they all buy and they all sell at the same time, which means that the emotion in the market on the up and the down get amplified because everybody's selling and everybody's buying, right? And so what that means is you need to be really, really proactive in terms of your asset allocation, in terms of, recognizing the fact that the market's going to go higher than you think it is. When I started this year, when I wrote this time last year, I thought 5,400 on the S&P this year, 6,000 on the S&P next year, right? We got to 54 halfway through. I think we're going to get to 6,000, right, at the end of the year. And when I entered into this year and I was 5,400, I was the lone wolf in the world.
Yeah, you called
right?
it right. Absolutely.
Right. So why do I say that is because I knew we're in a bullish trend. Where does this emotion, how much does this emotion manifest? Well, it's not about price targets, folk. It's about time and it's about where we're looking for. And I really think that this rally gets a little bit long in the tooth by, Labor Day to the fall next year. And the only thing that will stop it is President Trump getting in and putting in an extreme right policy, economic policy, which I don't think he is. But if he does, look, if he comes in and he's going to put a tariff on all Chinese goods, on everybody's goods around the world, he's going to go nuts like that. And he's going to cut taxes. Okay. Then what I say is watch what they did to Liz Truss, who is PM of the UK for 45 days. And I think the credit markets will not put up with it. So my story will change dramatically if Trump does not have a reasonable cabinet that is going to apply a centrist platform. And I'm bullish because, guys, look at what happened in the UK with the Labour win, the landslide win. The Labour Party, a little bit of inside pool, the Labour Party hired Mark Carney as the consultant. Think about that when we come back and think about Justin, right? And Friedland, right? And they put forth, whether you like the Labour Party or not, or the Conservative, they put forth a very, very, very centrist policy. And the markets liked it.
Absolutely.
I think that's where we're going. So that's why I'm bullish, but never say never.
That's right.